Guys, had this idea to kind of chart some things out, and hopefully I can do a better job of this in the future, but this is just kind of a sloppy idea that I just did I read an article about how replacement theology is not covenant theology is not replacement theology, and I thought maybe it'd be easier to understand some things if I kind of charted this out. So we got dispensationalism, replacement theology, and then covenant theology. And so if we look at God's original intentions for Israel, what is his original intentions for the nation of Israel? Is it permanent or temporary? And dispensationalism believes that his original intentions for the nation of Israel was to be permanent. And then replacement theology also believes that it was to be permanent. So you see how they're similar. Covenant theology is that God's original intentions for Israel was always to be temporary. And then basically how God responds to Israel's rejection of Christ. The differences between dispensational and replacement theology is that dispensationalism, I think generally they believe that God temporarily changes his gaze to the Gentiles or to the church. And so there's this, they call it like a parenthesis, where, the church is in between these two dealings of God with Israel. And with replacement theology, God actually replaces Israel with the church. He doesn't just temporarily have a parenthesis. He actually is basically done with Israel, and now it's all about the church. It's all about, just about the church. And I wasn't really sure what to put with the covenant theology, but I put that it's revealed in the New Testament that the church has always been the true Israel. And so, we understand that God's original intentions for Israel was temporary. And so there's not really this contention between, I guess, Jews and Israel and the church or believers. It's always been about believers. And there were some, within the Jews and some within Israel that were believers, and there were some that were not. And so it's revealed more clearly, I guess, what it is to be a true follower of God. And I wanted to notice, or basically, I wanted to show also how dispensationalism and replacement theology are similar. That in general, dispensationalism is premillennial. Most dispensationalists that you'll meet, they believe in the rapture, they believe in the 7-year tribulation, and they believe in the 1,000-year reign. And basically, premillennial means it's basically like, when is the second coming of Christ coming? Is it post-millennial? Does he come after the 1,000-year reign, or is it premillennial? He comes before the 1,000-year reign. So you got postmillennial and premillennial, and it's possible that there could be postmillennial dispensationalists and so forth. But in general, you're basically going to see premillennialists, and they believe that Christ comes before the 1,000-year reign, but there will be a 1,000-year reign, and they believe in the rapture, and that happens before the tribulation. And so there's that. And so covenant or replacement theology is usually a term to discredit covenant theology. It's like a straw man. This is usually like a straw man for replacement theology for people who haven't really studied or understand it. Very few would actually admit to being replacement theology or outright teach it. Steven Anderson is one of those people, though. Steven Anderson is a premillennialist. He believes in the 1,000-year reign and the rapture and the 7-year tribulation, just like most dispensationalists. But to contrast these two with covenant theology, in general, covenant theology teaches amillennialism. Most people that follow covenant theology would probably be amillennialists. Not all. There are people who believe in covenant theology, and they believe in the 1,000-year reign and so forth. But I think that a probably a majority of them, I think so, are amillennial, which is no 1,000-year reign, which is basically the main basis of it. And then there's also no rapture, no 7-year tribulation, because the millennial has to do with the millennial kingdom. And saying that there is not a literal 1,000-year reign. Premillennial, and then the premillennial, postmillennial just is saying, when does the second coming of Christ come? Does it come before the millennium or after the millennium? Amillennial says there's not even a 1,000-year reign. So, but so there's that. You can see how there's a lot more similarities between dispensationalism and replacement theology than there is covenant theology. And I just like saying this because with Steven Anderson, basically, he's one of the main ones that teaches replacement theology. And then he comes out with these videos against dispensationalism when he's really holds to a lot of the tenets a lot more than of dispensationalism than covenant theology. So maybe that can help understand some things. God bless.